Good morning. Apart from the possibility of Vijay Mallya being extradited anytime soon, the other big story today is of Cyclone Nisarga narrowly missing Mumbai. So that would have been a complete disaster, not only from in terms of the damage it would have caused Mumbai under normal circumstances, given the fact that a lot of makeshift hospitals could have got flooded, could have been, partly blown away. So this is very, very good news from that point of view. More important, this brings to the fore what environmentalist Sunita Narayan calls the cost of wasted time. You've had the cyclone in Mumbai, you had Amphan in Bengal a few weeks ago, you have the locust attack. So basically what she's talking about is that this is the cost of not doing things, not looking after the environment all these years. So basically all of these are coming to hit us together, and that's a huge cost that we have to bear, and the sooner we fix it the better. Of course, in this case it is not just India which is the culprit, it's more the developed countries like the United States that are the culprit here. I think the other cost of wasted time is really the issue that's playing out right now in terms of fixing the economy. We've seen today the headlines today are about how the cabinet cleared a proposal to completely free up the farm sector. But the problem, and over the last few weeks, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has come out with a series of announcements which have talked about the same issue of freeing up the economy. The problem really here is that you fix one thing, and because 70 years of neglect have created problems elsewhere, that one thing also may not necessarily help. A good example in this case is the corporate tax rate. The finance minister slashed the corporate tax rates to levels seen in East Asia, and there hasn't been any great spurt in investment after that. So basically, because people are worried about other things there. Now, the good news here is that we talked about yesterday is Electronics Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad coming up with a package to attract mobile phone manufacturers. The newspapers today are full of stories of how of the names of some of these people who will apply for this scheme. So we've got to hope that this scheme works out. The other big story today is the United States threatening action on India and other countries for imposing what we call the Google tax. Now, that's the interesting part, that the United States is actually waging a war with China right now. The anti-China rhetoric is going to get stronger and stronger till the elections are over. President Trump is going to be talking about that, but that doesn't stop him from taking action against India as well. So it's a tricky subject. India will have to negotiate it carefully. We've got to see how it works out. India has a valid point that this is not targeted at American MNCs. It's basically targeted at companies which don't have a permanent establishment in India and yet derive a large part of their income from India. This is also part of if I'm not mistaken, this is also part of what has been taken up in what is called the BEP, as the Base Erosion and Profit Sharing. So I don't know whether India will, the treaty, so I don't know whether India will be looking at that as a way to get around it, but clearly it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. Some interesting stories in the context of India's fight against the coronavirus and basically getting rid of Chinese goods as a consequence of that, and Atmanirbharta. So basically there was this app called Mitron, which is supposed to be the Indian substitute for the TikTok Chinese and there was actually an app called Kill Chinese Apps or Remove Chinese Apps, something like that. Now both of these were touted, they were circulated on social media as something which every patriotic, quote unquote patriotic Indian must use. Now the interesting thing is Google has just removed both these apps from its Play Store. Now there's some privacy concerns, there's some other concerns. We'll have to figure out how the makers of the app deal with that. But the short point here is that the fight for Atmanirbharta, the fight to get rid of Chinese goods is a lot easier said than done. It's a long way, it's a long haul. It requires a lot of reforms in India. Most of you would recall this WhatsApp forward, which has a couple at home. They're in their house and there's nothing at home. In fact, they don't have any clothes either. And one of them is saying to the other, so what now? We've got rid of all the Chinese stuff in our house. What next? So that's the long haul. An interesting story here by my colleague Rishi Ranjan Kala relates to the Delhi government's plan to increase the capacity to increase hotel beds for COVID. So a few days ago, the Delhi government had said that 5 hotels would be converted into hospitals. Now what Rishi Ranjan Kala has found is that one of those hotels has gone to the Delhi High Court challenging the order. So it's going to be interesting times. We've seen very often that government orders get derailed by what the court says. So let's see what happens in this case. It promises to be an interesting fight. And Financial Express and Rishi Ranjan Kala will remain on top of that. Another corona story which is what our lead edit is about today, is actually quite frightening. And that is, as the exodus, as the return of migrants to Bihar catches up, the state is actually finding it completely incapable of dealing with the rush. So it decided to stop all quarantine facilities and all testing of these return migrants. So that's pretty dangerous in terms of what it means for the spread of the disease. And but a good news story here is that after 180 scientists wrote to the Lancet expressing concern about the study which debunked, which basically rubbished HCQ, the Lancet has said that yes, there are concerns in the study. And after the Lancet said that, the WHO has restarted its solidarity trial for HCQ. So that's a bit of good news coming here. Gautam Bhardwaj carries on the edit page of Financial Express today. He carries on with something he's been working on very hard for the last 20 to 30 years, which is basically getting the unorganized sector to start saving every day, every week, every month. Getting the unorganized sector to start saving every month, and with some amount of contribution from the government, basically creating a social security network for the migrants and unorganized sector workers. In fact, a few days ago, he had a story in the Financial Express, an article, in the Financial Express, where he talked about the fact that had they been in NPS, which had been working for about 10 years, a lot of the migrant migration, this may not have happened at all. So read that story. It's an interesting story. It's an interesting article. It points to the fact that India needs to completely revamp the way it spends money, the way the government spends money. TV Mohandas and Nisha Holla have another similarly thought-provoking piece. Basically, they argue that until India's heartland, which is places like UP and Bihar, don't pick up, India really has no hope. So we can keep talking about what Bangalore does. By the way, that's where Mohan and Nisha come from. So we can keep talking about how Bangalore is doing great work. But unless these two states really pick up, so that means fixing their health infrastructure, fixing the education deficit. Now there are problems there in terms of the money which these states have. But it's a combination of money and a lot of hard work, policy hard work, innovation that will be required to make these two states go up. So that's what Mohan and Nisha talk about. Read that piece. Share the Saregama readers will be viewers. Sorry, I'm a print journalist. I'm just so used to saying readers. Share the Saregama surged 20% yesterday. Now that Facebook has tied up and had a licensing deal with it. So let's see where that goes and whether there are going to be more such deals. Last thought for those, before I leave for the day, last thought for those who've been surfing Google on an incognito mode, hoping that nobody's looking at them. Well, Google actually is facing a suit right now for managing to trace people while they were on incognito mode. So watch this space. Big Brother is watching you all the time, and it isn't necessarily the government of the day. Thank you. Look forward to the weekend. There's just 2 days ahead, 2 days left. So keep at it. Thank you.